Land management plans are probably the best opportunity for tribes to actually get started with a TFPA project, because that's where tribes and the forest have the chance to get together and compare notes to see what they have in common, what their shared interests are, what their shared values are, and what their shared outcomes might be. Because really, I think that's the point of this whole thing, is what the outcomes are going to be. It's not about whether you use the TFPA authority or not. It's about what you can accomplish on the ground, about what you can do to support resilient communities and resilient landscapes. And it's important for the tribes especially, because they are so in need of work, of protection of resources that are just not renewable, cultural resources, sacred places, cultural plants that are so important to them. That means that they're also important for the American public. Forest planning is when the forests reach out and talk with everybody who has an interest in those landscapes. And the forests are required under the planning rule to do that with everybody, and in particular with tribes. There's special elements in the planning rule that require that the forests consult on a government-to-government basis with federally recognized tribes. That's just the foundation, though. Often people think that, okay, we've got all these requirements for tribal consultation and that'll solve all the problems. But I'm here to tell you that having the hammer approach is necessary, but it's not sufficient. What we really need is the education, the relationships to allow projects to happen, for people to know each other and know where they come from and know the values that are behind that. That's how you have things happen. It's because people want to, because they see the value of it. You know, I talk to land managers all over the country, line officers including, who tell me that working with tribes is the most fulfilling part of their work. And often it's the most fulfilling part of them as people as they do it for a while. It's just incredible. Land management planning is one way to get started down that road. There are requirements in the planning rule for consultation, but there's also requirements for reaching out for particular things like traditional ecological knowledge. In the planning rule, it's called native knowledge or indigenous ecological knowledge. But it's really what we usually talk about as traditional ecological knowledge. It's a long-term intergenerational transfer of knowledge and gained knowledge about the world and how the world works. We've seen great advantages of that over the years, and we're getting better all the time at not only identifying that traditional ecological knowledge is real, but that we can work with it in partnership with tribes to do better work on the ground. We're also required to keep certain information confidential by the planning rule. It's so important. Locations of sacred sites. So we don't even have to know what is sacred about them to the tribes, but we are required to keep that information confidential when we have an express expectation on the part of the tribes that we do that. So it's a FOIA exemption from the Farm Bill from 2008. It's part of what we call the Cultural Heritage Cooperative Authority that we're implementing now across the nation. It's really a great authority, and that the planning rule accepts that, expresses that, and requires that is really a great thing. One of the main things to remember about the Tribal Relations Program is that the Tribal Relations Program doesn't actually do programs. And we don't do the forest management, we don't do the recreation, we don't do the contracting. What we do is we provide assistance, advice, education. We really hold people's hands to get them through the processes with tribes. We can provide introductions, we can help set up meetings, we can help develop relationships. That's why it's called tribal relations, because it's all about the people-to-people aspect that is embedded in all these requirements and opportunities throughout the forest. So tribal relations personnel have that expertise, that knowledge about the tribal people as well as the agency and how to bring those folks together. Leverage points are many. One is that we have common values, tribal values, and Forest Service values are really interlocked. The values that tribes have around landscapes, the ethic, the land ethic that tribes have, that's what the Forest Service is striving to find. So the more we work in partnership with tribes, the more we're going to be able to leverage that ethic as well as the requirements that we find in laws, in regulations and policy, and the way we interact. So also the leverage points are found in laws, regulations, and policy. For instance, the new tribal relations directives that were just published in March of 2016. And what that does is it really lays out that tribal relations is everybody's business in the agency. It's not the tribal relations personnel's business, it's everybody's business. Oh, absolutely. In fact, they do in many parts of the country. So, for instance, we use contractors all the time to do work on the National Forest System. And a lot of times they are required to do the NEPA process to be able to get the projects done. We can do the same things with tribes. For instance, on the Six Rivers National Forest with a TFPA project, the tribes were very involved with the NEPA process there. And it's happened all over the place. Well, I think the main thing that we should remember is the reason why we work with tribes in the first place. We work with tribes because we have to. That's true, because all the way from the Constitution through innumerable pieces of legislation, regulations, and policy, it says we have to. But we really do it because it's in our self-interest for the agency, because tribes help us do our work better. They help us meet our mission as an agency better. And their knowledge, their skills, the experience, their land-based ethic, and where they come from is the essence of what we're trying to accomplish for the Forest Service.